Hi everyone. Hi everyone. Have a good day. My name is Savelyeva Tatiana. I will talk about how we create text-voice robots so that they cannot be differentiated from a human being. So let me speak about myself. A couple of words. I am head of MLDL group in Yandex Go. I am founder of a new project of Yandex Portal for automation, and I like various technical things, automation and interesting projects. So I will be happy to discuss all these things. So let's speak about the goal of this presentation, why we're here today, what I want to tell you about, and what understanding we can all have after this presentation in 15 minutes. So what we want to discuss today, what processes are automated in the industry now, and let's discuss neural networks for automation, how to approach and how to configure and analyze automation. So why it is important? Because many tasks in NLP, from the point of view of business, are needed to substitute manual work, human beings' work, and it is important to understand how these tasks are related to specific business processes, why we need it, and what neural networks, what place they take in this, and how to make neural networks flexible and how to adapt them to various tasks. That's what we're going to discuss today. What processes are automated today in the industry? So, look, a very important process that is being automated today is substitution and control of work of people. So probably many of you talk to support often and receive text messages. Various discussions are moderated, and the moderator's activities in such conversations is substituted. And this market will grow to $30 billion, and chatbots market in Russia grew 3 times over recently, and that's great. So from the point of view of automation, not only text is growing, there is another large stream in video analytics and biometrics and control of health conditions of drivers. So we automated in our services the same thing. In our services, we check how drivers feel like when driving, and the video analytics market will also grow in the United States, for instance, by 2022, but from 2.6 billion up to 11 billion, and this is impressive. So the whole world is going to more automation through daily ML, and we need to think about whether you really need such automation, because it is important not to be the sacrifice, not to actually not just be part of this hype, but really see this need in your organization. If you have a lot of employees, and if the mistakes are very costly, if the clients are not satisfied with the service, and if the logics change, it takes too much to change the logics, you might need the automation. So neural networks for automation. Let's think about what place they take and how to approach automation in order to have effective neural networks working for you. So why we need neural networks? In all chatbots, intellectual assistants, it is a general opinion that the chatbot neural network is generating text. The client is articulating the problem, and you generate through neural network the whole solution of the problem, and you generate all means how to respond. But it's not the truth.
To solve this is needed to solve the very specific task, not the general one, as to what this text is about. And based on this information, we will configure it specifically as to how it should be solved and answered. And in chatbots, there are two different areas in NLP. There's robots to look like a human being. It doesn't matter what he says, it says, but the most important thing is to talk to him as a friend. And a very important area also is that we actually, in our chatbot, have to solve a very specific problem. For instance, a user or a client of a bank or a telecom So if you have to solve a very specific problem, then you will need it's not just to generate an answer. You have to identify your problem. For instance, if you address your bank to say there's something wrong with your account or your money was written off, so you need a robot not just to look as a human being, but to solve your problem. That's a very different task to solve. So the biggest challenge now in the industry is as to what we are currently doing is there are a lot of architectures. You just have the trends, and then you train them for the big data. But the most important thing for us here is to be in the trend of the recent trend, and the biggest value of our solution and in the market is yes, the more the data, the better you can train your model, and the architecture is something that you don't have to fine tune. But a very big challenge, we had currently is that we realized that it's not sufficient to just fine-tune the network just for a very ordinary task. Why so? Because the classification is a very versatile topic, especially when it is not very classical in build-up. Look, for instance, if you have to divide all the text about animals, about horses, cats, zebras, and so on, but actually zebras and horses are very similar, much similar than, for instance, cats and gepards or leopards. So that's why it is important to add the conscientious ones to the recent layers. For instance, if a client wrote to you that his money was written off, all of it from his account, and the address is, or thank you letter for the service. So, very important is for these two classes to be very well distinguished. For instance, the thank you letter is not a very important one, and there are some difficulties here. For instance, you have to accept an email, and we realized that supporting different classes. And what we did was a hierarchical tree with all those possible letters the clients can write. So we thus can predict using this hierarchy, not as a specific class of the test, but we can predict a class of the first layer or branch of the tree, then processing the consistencies, and then adding some vertex for the very specific subject. And then, to a larger extent, is the challenge. This is one of the examples, but of course there are very different classes and tasks. That's exactly how you have to pre-train using the bigger data and how to fine-tune it. And this provides a very good improvement, up to 10%. So how to further configure and analyze the automation? Well, many tasks with text do not predict this topics. So there's the single pipeline, and if you usually neural network is a very small part of the the bigger algorithm of the solution. For instance, if your task is to automate support, what is support? Well, it's a place where a user can write to, ask something. For instance, a bank. So the client wants to know how much he is to pay for his loan. So what are the requirements to the bot? It should understand what the user writes about and enter some basis and make up the reply in the way the chatbot to look exactly like it were living operator for them to answer faster, and for the ill wishes for adversaries not to cheat them. So the process that operates now, what a support employee is doing now, first he reads the text to understand what it says about them. He analyzes the information, whether it's a visit, an order, or an address, and then he selects an answer out of, for instance, last time well, first he has to check whether there's a loan, that this person has a loan before answering. Then he has to check that he has to pay something still, and then to provide the sum he has to still pay. So what the neural network does, it reads the text to identify the subject of the topic. For instance, the bank says that the money was written off 2 times, so we have to understand what goes on. Well, first we use this to understand what text is about the topic, and then we need an algorithm using which we can really verify and whether that's true. So that's very important to all those parameters and settings, using all those rules to make them maximally comfortable. For instance, first you have to write the text of the answer if you want, and the topics, the meanings that the model should provide, and other signs besides the topics. You have to configure it in the way to answer in this text. That's the chatbot goes. Using the AI and configure it, which is important. And also what we faced was that if you provide freedom to the people to configure the chatbot, which is very easy, then you face inevitable mistakes. People can do in production not what you wanted. For instance, first, if something was wrong, then it turns out that for the user talking about the fact that he cannot be hired by our bank, you say, sorry, here's your money for your compensation. So for this not to happen, you have to roll up an offline process for each model, which will predict how those changes will impact the production, to do the environment testing. And we did it, and it helped us very much because we, before that, there were very strange things in the production. For instance, 10% increase, for instance, and this helped us a lot to configure our neural network, to guarantee lack of mistakes. Also, we think that all this network architecture with all those things, well, we needed to replace an operator in support, and also mostly it is needed for the user to be happy that the money is saved in support, and to get quicker answer. So usually the call center director, so we have to provide all the information for him to understand what it's all about. And here again, very important are the operational methods as to how much money you can save for the business. But also we face the fact that no less important is to calculate the product metrics. And we realized at some point that in case of automation, the simplest, the easiest way to count as to calculate or evaluate how happy they are, it's not a one-off calculation in different groups and time of answer, but just to do it all the time. 5% of control, which per person, and thus we will build up the chatbot to look at the percentage speed-wise and how the model changes the accuracy. Because now we notice that very often there are new topics and the quality goes down. For instance, using a taxi, there was a new delivery tariff, and the model hadn't seen that. The quality went down, so we had to experiment. So we faced the problem that all our services that we automate with a robot, we very often have to add new topics like deliveries, and the robot, either doesn't answer at all or acts very strangely. So we train the model to once a week do it to read all the metrics, and if we used a new one, and that we saved lots of time and a lot of headache, and helped us to update everything in time. So, also important thing is that when we are doing something in AI and it's all great for the users, it answers, it saves the money for the business, but there are always people who will try to cheat you and to extract material benefits for themselves. For instance, they will understand the composition of words and what to do for the system to get the return of money, or some promo code. That's quite a dangerous topic to discuss, but very important to really reflect on the scenarios of breakup of chatbots, because they can steal a lot of money. And for us, it was very important to review the results, to understand what we are what we really are doing, well, to understand how much we save, how it impacted the users, and to have a good support model. So we will introduce, we introduced the models, and the users liked it very much. We saved a lot of money, and thus we've, the future support. When we did it all, it looks as follows for us. Old-fashioned support of call centers with operators. They were answering to clients' calls. Well, our support is that we divide the people into clients into two parts. To fine-tune the models, and then they write the text for the neural network to answer, and then send the messages and write letters. So using the neural networks, if you configure it and track them and follow for them to update in time, and importantly is to monitor the cases and to provide great results in the business, that inspires us. And that's the result. So you can write to me, and here are my contacts and Telegram. And I think I would better cover the business things, because we just realized during the work that NLP models give a surplus. Or incremental growth, not a very high one, but then it is important to configure it well, how to get protected. That is why I try to focus on that. But if you want to read something about networks, then I have an archives where I write about a lot of articles. And also we have a great solution, and we are selling it to different companies. So if you're interested for some reason, or if you want to get some advice we have internal consulting, and we'll be happy to answer your questions. Thank you. Tatiana, thank you very much. Very interesting, very practical business presentation for today, the most practical. It would be great to hear more details, but we don't have much time left. So thank you very much again for your presentation. Thank you.